building, along with the completion of all the remediation work. Following that same week, on the 29th, after the MEPs get disconnected, the demolition will proceed. Overall demolition is approximately 4 months. Some of the site protocols that will be established on site would be, we're going to work within the approved work hours provided by City of Evanston. All the start, stop times, and noise will be strictly enforced. They'll be reminded in daily huddles we have with all the trade partners, along with our trade meetings. Vibration monitoring will be set up and constant during the demolition activities. There'll be dust control measures implemented, along with monitoring. We will have site security at the perimeter gates. So the site will be secured and no one will be able to enter or exit without proper authorization. We're also going to maintain a traffic control for all the vehicles entering and exiting the site. There will not be any idling of trucks on site. There will be no staging of trucks or vehicles out in the streets. The protocols that are set forward are the trucks will enter into the site to the location where they'll be loaded and unloaded, shut off, proceed with loading and unloading, and then start up and leave the site properly. There'll be no on-street parking for those trucks or staging. Vehicles will be checked prior to leaving for any dust or debris. Vehicle tires will be washed and cleaned prior to leaving the streets. Onto the streets, we do not want to track any debris or dirt out onto the street roadways. With that, street sweepers will be readily available just in case if some dirt does happen to track out. We will have the ability to immediately clean it up and maintain the roads properly. There will be no parking allowed on the streets, especially residential neighborhoods, as part of our protocols for the project. Local parking garages and transportation, public transportation will be utilized. With the immediate start of the demolition work, the crews will be on the smaller side, so we will utilize some on-site parking for the first few weeks of the job. And then following that, they'll move on to parking garages and getting to the site accordingly. We'll go ahead and advance the slide, please. So here's a quick snapshot of the overview of the site. The red line you see will be the perimeter construction fence being put in place. There are 3 gate locations, gate 2 along Central, gate 3 and gate 5 along Ashland. Gate 2 will be the primary entry and exit for all the trucks coming and leaving during demolition. As the demolition progresses, gate 3 and 5 will be utilized later in the project. You could advance the slide. As you see here, this is the designated truck route. Trucks will be leaving the stadium site. They'll be heading for a few blocks to the east, then south over to Emerson, and then proceed out of the area towards the highway. Go ahead and advance the slide. Pam?
Thanks, Mike. As Mike has described for you in detail, our demolition plan and how, in fact, we have been intentional about how we will be really good neighbors in the city of Evanston. So to that end, it's no different than how we approach our minority and women in Evanston-based business engagement goal. We are committed, along with Northwestern, in making certain that we achieve that 35% goal. And that means that we have the ability to recognize both local and national certifications, of course, and making certain that we are engaging in engaging with local-based businesses, as well as businesses who are able to really come to the job and really be able to really perform in a successful manner. Next slide, please. So to date, since last March, our team has actually met with more than 50 businesses that have registered and requested a meeting on the Rebuild Ryanfield website. We've included the hyperlink here just in case there's a business out there who actually wants to sit with our team and tell us a little bit more about what it is you do. And then to really further deepen our roots in the Evanston community, we have a team member that sits and hosts office hours every Wednesday from 10 a.m. until 3 p.m. at 1910 Greenwood Street in Evanston, Illinois. We've been doing that now for a couple of weeks, so we're excited. If you ever want to stop by and really just chat with us and let us know who you are and how you think you fit in this great project, we'd be happy to speak with you in that way. Again, it's not just about the construction opportunities, but it's about any Evanston-based business who has food trucks, your food vendor, you do swag or any of those things. We want to know who you are. Again, so we want you to reach out to us through our website, and as well come and visit us at our space on Greenwood. Next slide, please. So with the diverse business participation, there's also a workforce component here, and we are working really closely with Rebuilding Exchange in the city of Evanston to make certain that local Evanstonians have an opportunity to get connected to any needed training or other resources that they would need in order to be matched with trade and career opportunities in the construction industry on this project. So we've listed the contact information for our partners over at Rebuilding Exchange. So we are excited to be there. And again, we plan to continue to host local events to let folks know about what kind of careers are being offered in the construction industry, and then how they can better connect with the job in general. Next slide, please. So in an effort to really stay connected and really communicate with the city of Evanston and how things are working, we've partnered with 311. So we invite everyone to submit your questions following your website and following the protocol in the city of Evanston, to submit any of your questions or concerns to that system using its website and email. Next slide, please. So not any different than how you would go about it in your regular course of business in requesting information from the city of Evanston. This is where you would send your email for us with any concerns about the project. So we want to definitely make certain that we are being attentive to those concerns and making certain that we are, again, being neighborly and being good neighbors and being good partners in the community of Evanston. With that, Dave.
Thank you, Pam. Thank you, Mike. So we're going to turn it over to our City of Evanston partners again to talk a little bit more about the city's role in this project, and as well as an update on the permitting process. So from the city, we have Liz Williams, who's the city's planning manager, and Andrew San Roman, who serves as the interim building official. So Liz, Andrew, I'm not sure who wants to go first, but the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. I think I'm going to kick it off for us. So first, just wanted to talk a little bit about the permitting process so that you know where we're at in that stage of the project. Right now, we have issued the temporary construction fence permit so that they can go ahead and set up that construction fence barrier around the site. We'll also be issuing a permit for them to begin mobilizing on the site. So basically, bringing in some of the trailers, setting up the site, bringing in some equipment before they actually start the actual demolition. Obviously, there's a lot of setup that goes into it. So they're going to get that construction fence up, and then they'll be setting up some equipment on the site there. And then we hope to, in the next week or so, issue the demolition permit for them to begin some of the demolition above grade of the stadium. So things are moving along as far as the permitting process goes. Liz is going to talk a little bit about the historic preservation side of things, so I'll hand it over to her.
Great. Thank you, Andrew, and thank you everyone for being here this evening. So you may or may not be aware, but one of the additional requirements from a state level review standpoint was taking a look at proposed mitigation associated with the demolition because it was identified as eligible as a historic building. So the city had sought input and we received a lot of feedback via an online form. There was a discussion at the Preservation Commission in December, in addition to a virtual listening session. And all of that feedback was sent to both Northwestern and the State Historic Preservation Office for consideration. Based on that feedback, additional mitigation was integrated into a memorandum of agreement between Northwestern and the state based on all of the feedback that we received from community members. So those included, continuing to work with Rebuilding Exchange, which we just heard about, to identify items that can be salvaged during demolition. In addition to future signage, markers, or displays on the site that would be kind of conveying the history of the site and how it has evolved over time, and the associated tribes in Evanston, and celebrating their home and an ancestral land. In addition to that, there's also a mitigation measure to collaborate with an archivist to maintain and periodically display photographs, written texts, drawings, and other forms of record related to Ryan Field demolition in Northwestern University and other locations on campus. So just wanted to share that the feedback provided by community members has been heard and integrated into the memorandum of agreement between Northwestern and the state. So I'm going to actually kick it back over to Andrew. One of the topics that we heard was of interest was around the vibration assessment monitoring that will go on related to this project.
Yeah, thank you, Liz. So vibration monitoring is one thing that we've worked with Northwestern's team on throughout the demolition permitting process. They submit a construction management plan that details how they're going to deal with certain issues like this. One of them is vibration monitoring. So Northwestern's team will be monitoring vibration at different points throughout the site on a weekly basis. They'll be conducting an analysis of those that vibration monitoring, and they'll compile a report for that. And then they're going to submit a monthly report of those analyses to us at the city. So we'll receive a report from them, but Northwestern's team, the contractor on site there, will be the ones doing the actual monitoring of the vibration and performing an analysis of those data points. If you notice anything concerning at your property or at the construction site, of course, the city has limited staff available to see everything that's going on, so we appreciate having more eyes on it. And as always, if you do notice anything concerning, please feel free to contact 311. I'm sure most of you are familiar with that system and how great it is. There is going to be an option on 311. If you've ever submitted a request before, it asks for the type of submission, and you see various headings there. Each of the city departments is listed. There will be a separate heading there for Ryan Field, ask a question. So if there are any concerns, please feel free to submit a request for information on 311, and that will go directly to the construction team so they can answer any of those concerns. If there are any major concerns on site, the city is prepared to stop work if there are major concerns, but we're confident that the vibration monitoring that Northwestern will do will help in that regard. Now we will go back to Liz to talk about some of the third-party stormwater review. That was another question with regard to the project.
All right. So third-party stormwater review, as part of the city council review of this project, they added a condition that the city contract with a third-party review to evaluate the stormwater management system that's being proposed. So the city has contracted with that third-party firm. It's BBJ Group, which is a leading environmental engineering consulting firm out of Chicago, and they are currently reviewing the preliminary design plans that Northwestern is working on for the stormwater system. And this gives the city an opportunity to provide early input into the final design before they go and actually submit for building permits. This third-party review contractor will also review the building permit submission when that comes in for the city to ensure that it complies with all local, state, and federal requirements. So just wanted to share a little bit of an update on that piece and let you all know that that is currently being reviewed. And with that, I think we're going to kick it back over to Dave and Councilmember Ravel.
Councilmember Ravel, I think you're sharing your screen.
I don't know quite what happened. Really, just everything changed. Maybe Bill my husband can come upstairs, and I didn't do anything. It just It's crazy. Well, while we're sorting that out, I did have a couple of questions, I guess to Mike, or there were some points in your slide that indicate you're going to do what, what the zoning requires, but a little more detail would be helpful. So for example, what are going to be the work hours for the, how early in the morning and how late at night can people be doing the work?
So the normal project work hours will be from Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Nothing will start prior to those hours and nothing will commence after those hours.
Okay. And it's just, I'm sorry. Oh, there we go.
There you go.
Phew. And then you also mentioned controlling the dust.
Yes.
How are you going to be doing that?
So it's going to be a multi-stage process. The first process will be, it's called the wash down of the structure. What they'll do is they will hose down the structure to get any residual dust and debris off the structure before they start taking it down. And then they'll utilize this equipment that is basically, it's called a mister, which sprays a mist of water into the air in the area that they'll be performing the demolition. And then at the point of contact, so at the end of the machine where they'll actually be performing the demolition and pulling apart, there'll be another mister there. So there's a direct contact to minimize the dust. And on top of that, they'll be setting up, similar to the vibration monitors, dust monitors that'll monitor dust. They'll take samples every 5 minutes and over the course of a 24-hour period. So they'll continue to check for dust and then it'll be notifications if it exceeds a certain amount.
Okay, that's quite an elaborate process. Yeah. Well, let's turn it over to our audience. And if you have questions, if you'd raise your hand, use the raise hand function, and we can call on you to ask a question. Carl.
Hi, good evening. I have a question in regards to the memorandum of agreement that Northwestern signed with the state of Illinois. It was my understanding that demolition cannot commence until all of the mitigation work has been completed, which includes documentation, both photographically and drawings of the stadium. Could you talk about, give an update about that?
I guess that's for you, Liz, maybe.
No, I actually would turn that over to the Northwestern team. We're not involved in the memorandum of agreement.
Okay. Dave.
Yeah, if you no, we don't have our attorney on. Give me a second here.
I think I saw Matt.
Hi, Cop. Hey, Carl, if you hang tight, can we?
Hey, Dave, can you hear me?
I can. Okay, Matt, I was going to get back.
Yeah, hey, this is Matt Cop.
Yep.
Yeah, those efforts have been completed and they were accepted by Illinois SHPO.
So that means the memorandum of understanding or agreement is official.
Yeah, it's been signed by both parties. It's effective. In the memo, it had some requirements of things that needed to be done, including taking pictures that were done in a particular way to Illinois SHPO standards. They reviewed that and they've signed off, and that's all completed now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Matt.
And I have a follow-up question. Also, the Pokagon Band of the Potawatomi tribe reached out to the city of Evanston about potential Native American archaeological sites on the site, and I'm wondering what part of the construction management plan includes monitoring for any of those sites.
Matt, Cap, I don't know if you want to speak briefly about our engagement with the indigenous leadership, the Tribal Historic Preservation
Yeah, sure.
Officers.
Yeah, I can touch briefly on it. We've had 4 meetings with the tribes now. They've all been really good, very cooperative meetings. And yeah, we have things in place for excavation where, to the extent there is an inverted discovery, that we will comply with the laws and regulations that are required under Illinois in terms of how to process, and we will involve the tribes in that process as well.
Thanks, Matt.
And we've discussed that with the tribes. Yep.
Okay,
Okay.
great, thank you. Evie Russell, do you have a question?
Evie, if you're talking, you're on mute.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep,
Yeah.
go ahead.
So where's the water going from the wash down and the dust down? Because what I'm concerned is you're washing and dusting down material that may contain, you know, toxic material. So where's that water going to?
Mike, do you want to speak about that? The process when we do the wash down of the building?
I mean, do you
preparation for
test?
demolition? Hold on a second, Evie. I'm asking Mike to follow up in some of just our environmental mitigation strategies.
Yes, so there will be environmental tech on site monitoring the process of the demolition and documenting the procedures.
But are you testing the water?
They should be testing.
They should, or are they going to? There's a difference.
I'm sorry?
There's a difference between saying should and you are going to. I'm sorry, but you know, I've dealt with Northwestern before.
Okay, I understand. I could review the process and we could get back with you.
The reason I'm saying that is because I did some renovation work on my house. And only after I started the process, I realized about the lead. And so if I had used one of those mitigation things while I was working, it wasn't like a big job or anything, all that stuff would have gone into our water system. That's all I'm saying, for example. That was one question. The other one is like you showed a map, but it was very, very brief. I mean, I came late to the meeting, but I seen the map of the truck route. Is this map going to, maybe Revel can answer that, going to be published on the city site? Because I couldn't tell what street it was just from looking at it. And also I couldn't tell the exit and entrance. I saw that it was across from Livingston. So on what street is that entry actually to the construction site? Because it's across from Livingston, but is it on Ashland?
Yeah, Evie, what I'll say, the presentation will be shared publicly. So we'll share it. We can also ask Councilmember Revelle to send this out as part of her updates. It will be on the Rebuild Ryan Field website. As you can see, this meeting is now being recorded, or it has been recorded since the first presenter. So all of this will be public information. You'll be able to peruse that presentation and take a look at the exact streets of where that were listed on the map. So all that will be available to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Evie.
Also, Dave, just a response from the city on that as well. The city does post the construction management plan on the city website as well. And that truck route is included in the construction management plan. So you'll also have access to it there.
Oh, one little question. These 50 businesses that you listed, are those the names available?
We can make them available for you with their permission.
Well, I mean, the idea here is to find out exactly how this process is going. So, you know, permission or no permission, it's stating that these businesses are going to be hiring all of these people. But if we don't know what these businesses are, it's sort of hard to
So
follow the
So
trend.
yep, thank you for your question.
Thank you.
So the businesses that we've met with so far, those are businesses who have, they offer a variety of goods and services that may be used on this project as well. We would just give a common courtesy to those folks and let them know that we would be sharing their information. And so, again, we can make that available to you, but we do want to just give a common courtesy to those businesses that have met with us through that portal on the Rebuild Ryanfield project to let them know that their information will be shared with the folks in the city of Evanston.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, Ken Prosky next.
Ken, if you're talking, we can't hear you.
Or shall
Ellen,
we
you-
go? Yeah. Ken, are you there or should we go to Fiona?
Yeah, I think he logged off. He probably had some technical issues.
Yeah,
We should
okay.
probably move on.
Fiona, why don't you go next?
Thanks, Eleanor. My question is specifically about sidewalk access along Central Street. On the north side in particular, there is the crosswalk there at Ashland to get from the north side to the south side of Central. I'd like to know if that crosswalk is still going to be available or if it is safe for us to be passing there. We attend school at St. A's just south of Central. And in order for us to get there, we need to be able to access it safely. So if there are going to be truck routes entering in on Ashland, would Northwestern consider installing a new crosswalk over at Eastwood instead? What's the plan for safely attending our schools?
So a couple things. Mike, I'm not sure if you want to talk a little bit about the crosswalk and what you're thinking about in terms of making sure there's safe pedestrian access and a walkway. Fiona, in terms of Northwestern installing another or a crosswalk, if that's a request from the neighbors, it's good to hear that now. I mean, that's where we have these meetings to socialize that issue. But before we get to that point, I think it's important for us to share sort of our plans and safety measures that we'll have in place to ensure pedestrian safety.
Thank you, Dave. So Central Street sidewalk will remain open on the north side. The crosswalks will be maintained. As trucks enter and exit the site, there'll be traffic control. There'll be on-site flaggers, so the trucks will have I call it eyes on the ground to watch for pedestrians, similar to like our crossing guard would operate, except they're watching for the trucks and making sure that pedestrians can get by safely. And they'll be at every gate location when trucks are coming in and out.
But thank you to Fiona for highlighting the importance of children going to and from St. A's. That's just an extra group of pedestrians that we need to be very careful about.
Yeah, I mean, quite frankly, Eleanor, even just with the construction noise and the dust, I really don't think it would be safe for a lot of people to be walking in that area, working in construction myself. So I think it would really behoove the city to investigate relocating that crosswalk.
Putting
honestly,
it
honestly, the Eastwood Central intersection could use a crosswalk anyway. Just the flashing signs and a walkway anyway. So I would really request that the city investigate that, please.
Yeah. Okay. We'll pursue that question. Kathy Greenberger.
Hi, this is actually Kathy's husband, Steve Sliger.
Okay. Go ahead, Steve.
I have 4 questions. What is the Central Street Coalition? It would have been nice to have a little background and description at the intro for that. Second thing is on the dust monitoring. One of the things, obviously, as Evie said, you are monitoring for lead dust. And her question in terms of where the water that's used to hose down the construction site and keep the lead dust down, where does it go? That has not been answered. The third question is, what is the truck route specifically Will the trucks for the construction be going down Isabella and across the CTA grade and across the bridge over the canal? The CTA grade, you know, after 30 plus years of being substandard was finally replaced 2 years ago. Has the CTA been informed if that is the truck route? Are the tracks going to be able to take that, or is the work that they did 2 years ago going to be destroyed, basically? And also the bridge over the canal was finally resurfaced about 5 years ago, and you know, again, I'm concerned about if trucks are going over that. What is the condition? Will there be deterioration? What will be, if there is deterioration, what's the plan for repair? Third thing is on the stormwater review. My understanding from attending previous meetings is that the stormwater will be directed directly into the Metropolitan Water Canal. My question is the same consideration that's given to Northwestern going to be given to Evanston citizens so that we can reconnect our downspouts back to the stormwater sewage system?
Thank you for those questions, Dave. I hope you were taking copious notes. I'm going to take one of those and then I'm going to pass them over to my teammates. So the Central Street Consortium is really just the formal name of our joint venture team between Turner Construction and Walsh Construction. In the industry is not, it's a standard practice for us to name our JV team so that, again, working in cohesive nature with the two groups. So the Central Street Consortium is just the formal name for our JV team of Turner Construction and Walsh Construction.
Thanks, Pat. Mike, do you want to talk about the dust related issues, and then whatever you can provide about the traffic route? What I would say is that, you know, we have been in contact with the CTA as well as the Regional Transit Authority. Those conversations will continue. And so we have an open line of communication with the leadership at the CTA, who are very much familiar and aware of our project. But Mike, again, do you want to talk a little bit about, so again, the dust and the wash down? That's not the appropriate term, but that process, we wash the building to prevent dust, as well as what you know today about the truck route. And again, to keep, you know, as I said at the outset, this is not the last meeting that we're going to have, and we're going to continue to have more of these. And so if you don't get all of the information and answers today, keep in mind that we'll be back again when Councilmember Revelle invites us to share more information.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you have an answer that you can share, Mike, or is that something that we need to get back with our neighbors and provide more detail?
I would like to get back to provide more detail. I know that, you know, we are utilizing consultants, and I know it will be addressed properly for the regulatory policies. So I'd rather get the correct information back to everybody appropriately. And so, like, we will make sure that we're coordinating with that third party and the owner to maintain the site. And the dust monitoring, you know, it'll be checking for all the dust particles, right? As far as the truck route, you know, we're directed to go down Emerson, with transitions into Gulf, to minimize any of the added trucking along Central Street through the business district there. We don't want to tie up traffic there, so that's why the truck route's been rerouted to the south and then westward. Like Dave said, CTA was contacted and made aware of the site. Hopefully I answered the questions.
Yeah, it did. Before you speak again, just there's a couple more questions that were raised. So we're gonna have to get back, council members, specifically around the environmental concerns that were raised. So we'll follow up on that. Now there was regarding the stormwater piece. I'm not sure if any of the city staff just wants to again talk quickly about the independent assessment that's taken place around the stormwater management, and then there was a policy request regarding the allowances for neighbors. I'm not sure I fully understand, but I mean, I can't answer that question. And I think
Yeah,
that
I can step in. I mean, I don't think I think the policy decision is above my pay grade. But I'm happy to bring it back to others internally to have a discussion with them. The outfall into the canal is, you know, the jurisdiction of MWRD. So all permitting and authorization does go through them. The city just reviews to make sure that the system that's being installed is consistent with our city of Evanston standards. So I just wanted to note that, you know, this is under the purview of MWRD in terms of the outfall.
okay.
All right.
Thank you, Liz.
And then Dave, I can speak a little bit to the truck route issue as well. Steve, it sounded like your question was revolving around Isabella and where the street crosses over the train tracks there at Isabella. Isabella is not a part of the designated truck route. Trucks will be heading east on Central over to Sherman and then heading south. So that area there that you spoke about won't be an issue on the truck route.
Thank you. I appreciate that clarification.
Not a problem.
Thanks, Andrew.
Right.
Eleanor, it seems like Ken is back. So I don't know if you want to go back to Ken before
Sure.
we add.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Okay. Yeah. Ken, are you able to?
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Great. Go ahead.
All right. Well, actually, I have several questions. So what I want to know is, should I ask them one at a time, give everybody else a chance, or do you want me to just sequence them now and get them all out?
We're doing rapid fire, Ken. So go ahead.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. So as the project gets going, I know that there's a timeline sequence of when all these different things have to happen. One of my questions is, when do you envision excavating the east parking lot, which is right next to me? Because I know that there's a significant amount of deep excavation that's going to happen there, and then the outfall for the stormwater is going to go right down Chancellor Street in front of my house. When is all that planning? When is that planned to happen in the sequence of all the other things you have? Is that going to be this summer, next summer? You don't know yet?
Okay. Why don't we pause there and answer those questions?
Sure, Mike.
Okay, thank you for those questions. The excavation for the stadium itself, which is more towards the west side of the lot and the west end of the site, will commence later this summer. The excavation around the parking lot, closer to that east property line, will be more in the late of 25, spring of 26.
And
About
then
the stormwater outfall down Chancellor Street.
So right now that is looking to be somewhere around the same time of late 25, spring, summer of 26.
Okay, thank you. Next question I have is on the vibration and I guess the dust monitoring. You know, I'm an environmental scientist myself, so what I want to know is, where are the locations going to be for the dust and the vibration monitoring? Is it one station? Are there multiple stations at different locations? Do you know where they are? And follow up to that is, how do we get access to the reports?
As far as locations, there'll be multitude of locations set up around the site, approximately roughly 6 to 8 locations. Prior to setting them up, we will walk and set those points up. There'll be multiple throughout the perimeter of the site, mainly along the property line as well to be put.
I have a border 170 feet along one of those property lines on the east side. I heard that there would be a station near the east parking lot near the perimeter of the site. Is that?
That is correct. There'll be monitors along the east side, along the property line.
Okay, so how do we get access to these reports? I'm concerned about vibration in my house and what might happen. Not just for the demolition, but for the entire project.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say, I guess, Liz, Andrew, maybe we can work with you on that. I mean, this is going to be, we're sharing these vibration reports with the city, which means it'll be public information.
Right, right.
And so we should figure out a system. I mean, we have some time to figure out. Well, we'll work with the city staff and council member you to figure out a system to make sure there's some transparency around that information.
Right, yes. We'll do that.
I'm just concerned because
Sure.
I'm so close. I'm one of the, I know there are a lot of people here today, and I'm a unique situation. I'm very close.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So, Ken, how many more questions do you have, or shall we?
One more. I have one more, and that is early morning noise. A lot of people around here, not just me, talk about noise before 7 a.m. startups. Vehicles beeping, backing up, getting in position to get going at 7 o'clock. Workers arriving early, sometimes as early as 5, 6, 7 a.m. And I know that will happen because it happened for the field house. And they're loud and they play loud music. They talk loud. They position their equipment. There's a lot of noise before 7 a.m. What is being done to prevent that from happening?
Mike, I don't know if you want to weigh in on that, but what I would say, Ken, is that, and we'll speak to the Turner Walsh team about this, just to ensure that we're having regular conversations with the worker to make sure they're being respectful of the neighborhood, given the proximity of the project to homes in the community. So, from a Northwestern standpoint, we're going to make sure that we have conversations with our construction manager to ensure that those conversations happen on a regular basis with the workers, and we can provide some more details around that maybe on our next call. But Mike, I don't know if there's anything that you want to add on time.
You said it pretty well, Dave. Part of the protocols for the project is no equipment is to start prior to 7 a.m. and there's to be no deliveries or truck traffic prior to 7 a.m. So the deliveries will be scheduled accordingly. And again, we will have security established at the gates to prevent any of this or help mitigate this problem.
Thanks, Mike.
So is there going to be a tent where these guys hang out before work and, keep warm and so on? And where's that going to be?
Mike, do you have any details around tent location? Because if we're still developing those plans. I mean, we don't want to share that information, Ken, and for it to be inaccurate at this point. But again, I mean, the main point here is that this is something that we all take very, very seriously. And so we're going to make sure there's a mechanism in place to, either, as Mike said, there's going to be a check-in at the gate. We're going to have repeated conversations with the workers. So what you should know is this is something that we take seriously. When we come back again, we'll have more specific information around our plan.
Sure. Well, I appreciate the answers. I just want you to know that this happened at the Ryan Fieldhouse construction. It was a huge issue every morning at 5 a.m. Noise from guys that played blasting loud music. And we dealt with you guys. We dealt with Alan Anderson for over a year. We complained. It wasn't until we talked to Eleanor that she got it resolved overnight. I don't want to do that again.
Wow, what such power. Well, we will certainly work on it, right? Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Aaron Cohen, you're next.
All right. I'm curious if you guys have any idea how many trucks on a daily basis from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. going down the truck route, and is Green Bay Road part of that truck route at all? Second question, how many workers approximately, and where will they be parking? Is there designated parking for the workers, or will they catch can in the neighborhood?
Mike, did you get those questions? How many trucks? Estimate of how many workers? Do you have that information today?
We don't have full information on the amount of trucks. It will vary by trade and stage of the project.
Okay.
And you know, the worker totals could be average of around 150 to 200. And parking, there's part of our protocols is there is no parking on the street. There's not gonna be first come, first served parking in the streets or the residential streets. They're gonna utilize the public parking garages and transport their workers to the site. That's being worked out with the trade partners as they come aboard. And all this, I just want to make sure everyone understands too, that like all these rules are reviewed during all the orientation. So every trade partner, every worker is going to be well aware and well versed of the rules and regulations and protocols for the job site, and they will be reminded on a daily and weekly basis at meetings and huddles.
Thanks, Mike. Aaron, do you have another question?
Well, I'm curious what happens. You're monitoring dust, etc. So what happens then if things exceed standards? Like, oh wow, it exceeded standards, or does it shut down? And you know, the Mister thing. Well, if it's, you know, below freezing, is it sort of like, well, I can't stop this project. We can't run the Mister either. Well, let's just, you know, go for it. You know, how does all that work?
No, I mean, what I'd say is this project has to abide by all of the local municipal regulatory requirements. That's the reason why we're working closely with Liz and Andrew. And so, I mean, the city has certain authority and powers to intervene with the project if we're doing something that could be a hazard to the environment, to the neighborhood. I mean, they can talk a little bit more about what role they play in that process. But I mean, we've had several questions about dust, council members. So it seems like that should be a big agenda item at our next meeting, is how we manage dust.
Absolutely, because we manage a lot of dust in our home that comes from various sources, not just you, but this will be a big generator potentially of additional dust and other pollutants. So that is a big concern. And I would be curious to hear from the city about what happens should the monitoring demonstrate that some of these levels are above standard.
Yeah, well, we will try to get a lot more information about this topic for our next meeting. Okay, so it says Judy Nichols on this. Whoops. I can't hear. Can you unmute yourself?
There you go. Okay.
There we go.
Yeah, two quick questions. What is the method of demolition? Is it wrecking balls? Is it explosion? How are you doing this?
Mike, do you want to share some feedback on the method of demolition?
Yes, no wrecking balls, no explosions. It'll be it's basically it's like an excavator, like a backhoe, but it has a like a gripper on it that'll take apart the building piece by piece.
When this building was built, the norm was asbestos, and it would be extraordinary if this building was not filled with asbestos. And I'm assuming that it has been evaluated, and are you saying that this misting thing is adequate to keep the asbestos dust debris that we're going to be breathing out of the air?
Mike, do you want to weigh in on that? You know, and again, Judy, I think Eleanor, again, as part of our next meeting, we should have, we should be able to talk more about sort of our environmental mitigation strategies, which include some of the questions that I heard in part of Judy's question. But I don't know, Mike, if there's something you want to share today in response to the asbestos concerns.
Yeah, it's been identified by the consultants, and it's being addressed per the regulatory protocols, and will be completed prior to any demolition.
Oh,
Yeah, I
am
think.
am I feeling relieved by that answer?
No,
That did not sound direct.
I mean, looking at the permit application for Cook County, for example, I believe it highlights the need to have the asbestos removed before the formal demolition begins. So we can get more information about how that was accomplished.
This is Ken. I used to do this kind of work. Asbestos has to be removed before any demolition. You cannot start the project without it.
And it has to be removed by a certified.
Exactly. Licensed certified contractors.
Right, yeah, but we can get that information for our next meeting.
Well, in the previous hearings, the Land Use Commission said that the rubble couldn't be reutilized because it was full of asbestos.
I don't remember that.
Hi, this is Tom. I'm on the project team.
Okay.
There is an environmental consultant that's been on the project for over a year. They designed and developed a full abatement program for us. There are 4 areas in the building identified as having asbestos containing materials, and we are almost done with that work. So as others have said here, we will be done with the abatement. It'll be certified clean by that consultant. Then the demo will be allowed to proceed. The statement made in the previous meetings was about lead paint, and some of the concrete does have lead paint on it. So that's why it cannot be recycled.
Okay, great, thank you. Doug, you're next.
Okay, hi everybody. Great meeting so far. I was pretty excited until we were able to slowly pull out the actual route that the trucks are going to be using. I, like Ken, am literally across the street from the stadium. Unfortunately, I happen to be east of the stadium, and am trying to figure out how all the concerns around ambulances and access to the fire department and the hospital are all going to be intermixed in with the construction traffic that now is going to exit into Central Street, turn towards the lake, go under the L tracks, I guess, up and over Ridge down to Sherman, turn right, head all the way over to Emerson, take another right. As you all said, Emerson turns into Gulf. And I'm just thinking, in my own snarky way, wow, you are involving the entire city of Evanston. Well done. But in terms of understanding the traffic daily, the number of trucks, when this actually starts, it's a big deal. And I hope Northwestern and the city of Evanston are putting together the kind of protocols in terms of crossing streets, etc. Yeah, it's a safety concern, it's a noise concern, and quite frankly, it's an inconvenient concern. So I'm going to just leave it at that. I hope we hear more, but it sounds like that's already decided, and it's unfortunate.
Well, the trucks have to get out of town somehow, and it's going to be inconvenient no matter what.
Shortest shot. Eleanor is right down Central Street. Maybe the viaduct's too short, or north on Ashland to Lake Street, then they can go straight out west. But if Evanston feels that we're controlling and containing this ourselves, I guess that's what we're going to end up living with.
Right. Well, I think, as was explained a little while ago, they're not going west on Central Street because to not disrupt the Central Street Business District. So,
well, how are East Siders going to get to the Central Street Business District where I do all my shopping?
well,
So so you're assuming that the only shoppers on Central Street come from the west.
Well, people will find a way. Anyway, okay, well,
You've heard my
How do
point.
they get to the hospital? How do they get to the hospital?
That's
Or the
even a
fire
bigger
trucks
thing.
out?
Well, it's not going to be nonstop trucks. Anyway, okay.
Really?
So, Van Nice.
Yes. Hi, can you hear me?
Hi.
Hi,
Yes.
thanks for the opportunity. I have a question. It's probably kind of silly and no one could probably speak to it right now, but does anyone happen to know if ETHS will be able to have their high school graduation in May at Welsh Ryan like it was last year?
Dave.
Yeah, we haven't made that decision yet.
Sure.
So I don't have an answer for you right now.
Okay, no worries. I'm sure you can't like break news for that right now. But I was just wondering. And one more question. I'm very much in favor of the project, and I think it's going to be really fun and interesting. And I'm curious if you could just remind me where is the best place to kind of follow along with the work schedule, or for if there was some exciting demolition just to watch, I guess, but maybe it's not going to be an implosion kind of thing. So maybe there's not a special day where where I can sit in my front yard and watch. But just wondering again, where's the best place to find out what's happening?
So Dave, is it, excuse me, Northwestern going to have a website that people can keep track of, things that are the different stages and what to look for, what to expect?
Yeah, we will, and we've had conversations about this to develop a site, so a static site where people can go to and see dates and some of the demolition and overall construction activity, and then information that we need to push out to the community because it's happening within a certain time frame, or as we just heard, this might be an opportunity that community members would like to either watch or be engaged in some way. There are different methods that we can share that information with community members. One way is obviously through your listserv or your newsletter. We also have the CATS Community Connection that's pushed out through our athletics department. The city staff, they can do a mailer as well, or the city's communication team. So there are a number of different ways, but there will be a website where all this information lives, and folks can go and take a look at it. And it'll be updated regularly. There'll be an FAQ section. So we're having conversations about that right now. We'll have more information. I would say by the time we meet again as a group, and when that is live and we have those details, like that's the kind of information I think we can push out through our various listservs.
Yeah, great.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, Jim Froberg.
Hi, thank you. And again, I think it's been a very productive and useful discussion this evening, and I appreciate all the information we're getting. So the initial question I think has been answered in my mind, at least as far as the truck route is concerned, that let me speak it in the negative, that there will be no trucks going south on Ashland past St. A's. All the truck traffic is going east on Central and then winding its way out. Is that true?
Mike, you want to answer that question?
Yes, the trucks will end up, right now the proposed truck route, designated truck route is east and Central.
Right.
Yeah, and then I believe that is I can't see the map. So, but yeah,
Those
refer back to the map, and it heads its way back down Emerson over to Gulf.
And where do the trucks come from to get to the stadium? Is it all going to just be on Central Street from the east?
It'll be the same trucking route as the exit. They'll be coming back that way.
Right, but there'll be no truck traffic on Lincoln Street and no traffic on Ashland Street south of Central Street.
Correct. That's the routing for right now. Yes.
Is that kind of like written in stone? Because I mean, one concern I have being an Ashland Street resident is that Ashland does get extremely crowded with school, children, etc. But it sounds like as long as all the traffic is going east on Central during the duration of the project, and actually for the duration of our lifetime, it stays off of Ashland, that's probably a good thing. And with respect to the no parking rules, what is the mechanism in place to enforce that?
Liz, would you like to take a stab
Yeah,
at that?
I can take that. So city parking staff will do enforcement related to any issues in the neighborhood. So if you are noticing an uptick, you know, we're hoping we can partner with you all to keep Northwestern accountable to what they've agreed to in terms of parking in the neighborhood. So if you're noticing that there's an increase in parking, feel free to reach out to 311. We'll send out, you know, staff to be able to look at that, and they'll ticket as appropriate. And I do believe, based on the construction management plan as well, that there are protocols in place to remind staff daily, and perhaps Mike can speak more to that, so that they know once they're on site that, again, they're not to be parking in the neighborhood. So that's how that would be managed.
Will there be any signage posted during the duration of the demolition that says local parking only or anything like
I'm
that?
certainly willing to bring that back to our parking staff. I guess my question would be back to the neighborhood. Do you guys want that kind of temporary signage throughout your neighborhood? Because, you know, that is additional signage. So if it's something that the neighborhood is requesting, we can certainly look into it and see if that's an option.
But in the absence of that, then it's the neighborhood people need to wander around every day during demolition and notice if there's more
No, I wouldn't.
available spots.
I wouldn't say that. I think our parking staff, we've been coordinating very closely with them. They're aware of this particular requirement to have no parking in the neighborhood. So what will happen is there will be proactive enforcement going on, probably more than there is on a regular basis, just to ensure that there is compliance. So I don't think that it is only solely on the neighbors to complain. I think it's a partnership. And so if you're noticing it, please let us know, but we will do our part to proactively monitor this as well.
And with respect to like the vibrations and things like that, as well as dust, are there any penalties if those rules are violated? Is there monetary penalties? Is there a firm shaking of the finger? What is the penalties for people to violate these rules?
So there are fines in place for those that violate the building code or any of the city's codes. I can't get into specific numbers for you of what the numbers of those fines are, but there are fines in place, and we will have enforcement in place. We will have daily visits to the site as well, and that monitoring done by Northwestern for all of those issues. So the city will be closely monitoring what's going on at the site.
And during some of the hearings, the question came up about the vibrations that could cause, I mean, you're calling them vibrations versus calling them damage to foundations of local homes and et cetera. Is there any recourse that owners have or preventive things that homeowners should do within a certain proximity to monitor if they are suffering any damage?
So as we discussed before, the monitoring will be the responsibility of Northwestern's team. They'll be submitting an analysis or reports of their analyses to the city. But as far as your own personal properties, we would encourage you as residents to be proactive. If you see the need to hire a contractor or an engineer to evaluate the existing condition of your property and your foundation, you are definitely within your rights to do so. And then monitor the condition as you see fit. But we would encourage you to do so if you're concerned about your particular property.
Would it, and this question, I did believe came up in some of the
There are
hearings.
several people who have had their hands up for quite some time.
Oh, I thought rather than asking all my questions in a series, I can ask them in a series. And that is with respect to the dust mitigation, sounds like it's the same answer. If we suffer some damage, we have to try to enforce it ourselves or report it. With respect to stormwater going into the canal, that probably is an EPA issue as well. And I guess citizens have a right to complain to the EPA about that. So that was basically it. I want to just get an idea of what the recourse is for homeowners that experience damage and whether there is going to be some kind of notice that goes out from the city telling homeowners, hey, this is what you may need to do under your insurance policies in order to have a valid claim for damage. But I thank Andrew for the information, but I'm just wondering whether it should be going out to the citizens more formally. But that's the end of my question.
Thanks, Jim.
Yep, thank you. Alex Harrison, you've had your hand up for a while.
Yes, hello, thank you. Alex Harrison, Evanston Roundtable. I do have just two very quick questions. One is, has the construction management plan with the trucking routes and then the site perimeter been posted anywhere online? Is that available?
The construction management plan has not been posted yet. There are still a few minor tweaks being made to the construction management plan, and once that is finalized, we will post it to the website.
Gotcha. And then this may be the same answer then. Getting back to something Jim asked a little while back was, has the trucking route plan been finalized yet, or is that also still under development?
That has been finalized. That part of the construction management plan has. There were many different factors taken into account, including viaduct height and clearances, the limited amount of truck routes in the city, but that particular route of east on Central, south on Sherman, and then heading out Emerson and Gulf out of the city is a finalized part of the construction management plan.
All right, great, thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
So Evie, we're back to you. We haven't had, can I ask Nancy Baruch first and then Evie?
Thank you. My question is again about the route. Is Northwestern going to put some money up in an escrow fund or something to reimburse the city and taxpayers for the brand new bridge we did over Central Street that took 3 years that we all lived through of construction, and now we're going to have 3 years of Northwestern of the trucks ripping it all apart? And it seems to me that there should be some money, again, put up by Northwestern or by the construction companies to reimburse. I'm sure there will be damage to that brand new structure. And so that's my question on that. And so I think the city should think about negotiating that with Northwestern upfront and have that held for damages.
Well, thank you, Nancy. As you may remember, the city negotiated a $150 million community benefits agreement with Northwestern University.
That's a different matter. That's a different matter than tax dollars that paid for that bridge.
So I don't have an answer to your question.
No, I'm just raising
so,
that I think Eleanor and City Council should consider that.
Okay, thank you, Nancy.
Yep, thanks. Evie, go ahead. Are you muted?
Yeah. Okay, so first of all, 311 is closed on Saturdays. So as per my own personal experience, when football fans park in front of my fire hydrant and I cannot call 311, or the traffic police is too busy to even come after 3 times that I called them to issue a ticket. So who are we gonna call on Saturday for traffic violations? That's one thing. So that's ridiculous. There should be signage at the very least. The other thing is for the contracting an engineer or having an engineer or contractor. I raised that issue, I believe, during the first meetings as a question to Northwestern, which was never answered. Why aren't we reimbursed for such things? Because this will be a cost to us residents to do that. And as it's very important, yes, for the city to tell the residents of this very likely scenario, because these are 100-year-old houses or almost 100-year-old houses, many of them. And the vibrations, especially for the construction, when you are drilling into the, pounding into the earth, this is terrible. And we as residents now have to pay a contractor to come or an engineer to come to do an extensive in order to prove that there would be damage, because there will be damage. And many houses, many homeowners are not going to either know or do this, and then they'll be stuck. And Northwestern will go scot-free again. Thank you.
Thanks.
Phoebe?
Okay, Sean Graves.
Yeah, Sean Graves, Daily Northwestern. I just have 2 quick questions. First, just for Mr. Mike. So when is construction on the whole thing, the whole project, the whole stadium, going to actually finish? Because it seems like a lot of this initial excavation work is going to go into, you said 2026. So how long is it going to take?
The excavation work is a couple of phases. So it's 2 separate activities there, and the construction is scheduled to be complete in the fall of 2026.
Okay. And just one question for Mr. Davis. I know this is probably not clear right now, but any plans for where the football team is going to play? Or no?
I don't have the answer to that today, Sean. But as soon as we do, we will announce that publicly, and you'll know about it as well.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone. I think we have a good set of marching orders for whoops, I'll come back to you in a minute, Doug. We certainly know what issues you'd like more information about for our next meeting, and we'll certainly work on making sure we have all that. Doug, going back to you.
Yeah, just a question. It seems like every time construction goes on, my car ends up with a nail or a screw in the tire, and then I have a flat tire and the tire has to be replaced. For damage to cars just from construction debris, Eleanor, do you have an idea? Is there going to be a central gathering point, or do we just do this as we normally would through our own personal insurance, covering our cars, etc.?
Well, certainly, the city's not talked about trying to address that. We've heard from Mike that they're going to be very careful about sweeping up and cleaning up to make sure that all the construction and demolition mess is taken care of. And so I'm hopeful that it's not going to be out in the middle of your neighborhood.
Well, I live across the street, so there's a really good chance and I'm on the route too, that the trucks are going to be going down all the time. So that's number one. And it would be really helpful, and maybe Mike can say that Northwestern will be open for the, complaints, because I had a bolt fall off of a CTA bridge and damaged my car. I took pictures, I turned it into the CTA. They were nice enough to pay my repair. So I'm hoping that Northwestern has some kind of insurance associated with how damage to the area and or the inhabitants who are affected by it will be dealt with. Second is the lady who did the really nice talk about the need for a crosswalk at Eastwood to help kids get to St. A's. I'd say that same thoughtful approach should be up and down Sherman. There's so many people who bike over to Northwestern. I'm a big supporter of Northwestern, by the way, just not the construction plan, to get, you know, safe crossing for the seniors who use the rec center, the bike riders who are going over there. I just think, you know, we think it doesn't have much of a deal, but, you know, there are going to be construction days where there are going to be a number of trucks, just one after the other, leaving the site. And it just, you know, would be nice to know that we've thought through the safety up and down Sherman as it relates to getting to Northwestern.
Yeah,
Thank you
okay.
very much.
Yeah, thank you. Good point. Okay, everyone. Well, thank you very much for being with us this evening and sharing your thoughts and concerns. And Dave and I will be putting our heads together about a next meeting with some more information, and we'll be in touch. So thank you all for joining us tonight.
Thank you all. Take care. Thanks, council member.